So today we're going to talk about the disadvantages of owning apartment buildings and multifamily space in general. I'm Tim Diesel, I'm a commercial real estate consultant, and I'm going to dissect this for you as best as I can. So when I first got into owning multifamily property, and it was multifamily because it's not an apartment building, right? It's separate units. That's the reason why they call it multifamily sometimes, because it's not just one big building. So when I first started getting into this, I had to hire a management company because I didn't want to do it all myself. It was a 20-unit building. It was way too much going on. The problem is you're going to lose money and you're going to lose control. So the first disadvantage with multifamily is management. It is so intensive. It's unbelievably intensive sometimes. And people think it's so easy. You just get in there, raise the rents. No way. There's a lot. If there's a property management doing it for you, there's a lot you're missing you probably don't see. The reason why I would recommend to manage your own properties is control. It's not because you make the extra 4 or 5%. It's control of your own property, control of your tenants. And what you'll find out very quickly is if you manage it yourself, it depends on the property, right? We're talking about C, B property right now. We're not talking about the A stuff. Depending on the types of tenants you have, it can be brutal and it can be streamlined, right? It really just kind of depends on how you screen people in, put people in. Whatever happens though, you're always going to get called. It's not like a retail building where everything is on their dime. No, they're going to call you and contact you on everything. If the doorknob doesn't work, if the washer dryer is not working because you wanted to get more rents and you got a washer dryer in their unit and that thing's not working, it's your responsibility to fix it. So in one sense, you want to get the very most out of these units, but it's a commodity. You know, it just depends on who needs 2 bedrooms. So you're gonna have to kind of play with what's there, right? So the biggest disadvantage is management. Management is so tough with these things, and getting a right property management company is not as easy as people make it sound. A lot of times you go through bad management companies, and what I'll do is I'll make a video about it, let you guys know how to deal with management companies. So the first thing you want to do is, I always say, figure out who's managing the property. Before you start looking, before you do anything, figure out who's managing this property. Because if it's going to be you, you got to learn some things quickly, right? All right, that's the first thing I would suggest. Raising the value can sometimes take a while. And I'll break this down for you a little bit. When I first got a 10-unit building, everybody was paying, let's say, $1,000 a month, and I wanted to double the value of this building. Well, you can't feasibly turn it into $2,000. That doesn't make any sense. So you have to go up gradually. And depending on which state you are, there's rent control. There's all kinds of different rules and laws and regulations. We know that. Now, most of the time, you could probably raise it up $100 a year. I mean, I'm talking very, very little. And the cap rates are dependent on the market. So let's remove those for a minute. Let's just say, I don't know, it's 10 everywhere. Let's just say everything's the same. If you're raising up rents $100 here, $100 there, it's okay, because once in a while, maybe when there's a rent spike, you can go up a couple $100, but you really can't do what you can do in a retail environment or an office environment where you could jack these things up on a 10-year lease or anything like that. Most of the time, you can't do that. You're going to be stuck to raising it up gradually. So when it comes to the continuity of the income stream and how stable the property is, that's kind of good, right? Because you're going to keep a constant flow of your rents, your increase. Most of the time, the expenses, if they're passed on, you don't worry about it as much. It just kind of depends. It's not like CAM charges or something, right? The big thing that can hurt you are vacancies. And vacancies are a hit or miss. If the market needs a lot of rent demand and there's people renting like crazy, vacancies are not so bad. Now, if it's kind of slow, if you want to raise rents up a little bit, if you lose a month or 2 of vacancy, that can start piling up real quick. Listen, if you don't get those holdover tenants, it's going to be very tough to make money. It really is. Even though people will tell you, oh, you're cash flowing, if you start dissecting that into one unit and you've only rented that unit 9 months out of the year, that's not very good because you've had a rental loss. Now, every time someone moves out, which is typically every year, you're going to have to do rent cleanup, right? You have to get the unit ready, rent ready for the next person. Now, most of the time, you can get lucky and maybe get them in there for 2 or 3 years. It's not very often they're going to be in there for 7, 8, 9 years. It does happen, but it's not likely. There are people now that I've noticed, because of the current market conditions, they'll stay in there for 3, 4, 5 years. But if everyone is buying a house, now you're going to get a little more vacancies, right? It just kind of depends on where you go. So the vacancies can hurt you. It usually doesn't stay vacant that long. I haven't seen most good apartments marketed properly. I haven't seen them go more than 30 days or something like that. I mean, that's not typical. But unless your rents are too high, then you're going to have a problem. So keep your eyes out on those vacancies, because they can start to creep up. Not so much in newer units, newer areas. Like if it's a property, which I know not all of us are doing, but if it's a property, most of the time, those kind of get scooped up pretty quickly. Everybody wants to get into the new product and new stuff. But for the most part, that's pretty good. So I hope you guys took notes of that. I hope that was helpful. If you have anything else, please reach out to me. I'm glad to help you.